So what I want to do now is talk about this part of your brain, the occipital area. And that means we're talking about vision. So when you develop dementia, depending on the type of dementia you develop, your visual abilities are going to change, sometimes dramatically and sometimes gradually. And there are many areas of vision change, but one I really want us to pay attention to is just, let's be practical. And so here's what I want you to realize. When we take in visual data, it comes from the world around us, and we have two eyes to the front of our heads, and our eyes face forward, but they can move around. Each of them can move somewhat independently, but we've trained them to work together. And what we actually see are two very similar images, only they're slightly spaced apart. And when you're 25, even if you look straight ahead and you wiggle your fingers out like this at 180, you can see your fingers wiggling, or you can't actually see them, but you notice them. And it's a great big circle. It's called visual field. And the outer peripheral area, the outer edge, is what you notice. You can't actually see, but you notice things. And what you'll notice is flashing, you'll notice colors, you'll notice, what is that? Something that you should turn and look at. So your peripheral awareness is about the last 15, 20 degrees or so of your visual field. Now, this part is where you actually see things, identify things, notice and pay attention to detail a little bit. And then right here in the middle is called center field vision. That's where you get the really good stuff. This is where you can read stuff. This is where you can detail and identify and pick up on, and if it's close, interact with things. So at 25, full 180. By the time you were 75 or so, you have lost about 45 degrees because you've slowed down. You are not as quick as you used to be. Normal aging, we slow down. Everything slows down, including taking in visual data. So if you ask a 75-year-old to put their hands out like this, they can see everybody else's hands, but not their own, unless you bring them forward about here. So this gradual loss, about 1% per year, has that gradually gotten there. Now, what this is like, if you look past the tips of your fingers, what this is similar to is basically putting on a cone, like you put on the cone of shame that dogs wear after you give them a surgical procedure and you don't want them digging and licking at stuff. So it's like you're wearing a cone, and if you put this around your eyes like this, you're missing stuff. Because it happens so gradually, you may not notice how much you're missing. You're missing it above, below, here. So by the time you're 75 and you're walking down the sidewalk, if you've never noticed before, now you're very likely to not just trip, because your reflexes are also slower. You're likely to fall and have to catch yourself on your arms. Now, you will catch yourself on your arms because you have protective extension. Or you might catch yourself on your wrist, and females break those. Or you might catch yourself on your elbow and break that. Or you might hit on your knees, but you're going down. And when you're walking with a laundry basket, you might trip up the first step. Or when you're getting something out of the trunk of the car, or when you're driving, you might think, I'm going to put my turn signal on, I'm going to move over. Oh, geez, where did he come from? You think there's a blind spot in the car. What you didn't realize is if you only have this vision and you turn like this, you're only looking halfway back the car. And so with normal aging, you learn to compensate, and you sort of double check, and you get over in that lane when there's not any traffic early. Maybe you don't even get in the fast lane, or maybe you ask the person in the passenger seat, do you see anything coming? Because you ask someone else to actually look far enough back because you don't want to lose what's in front of you. When you get dementia, you lose a little bit more speed, accuracy. So rather than taking in this much, in the early stages of most dementias, I'm taking in about 10 degrees less, which doesn't seem like that much, but if you put your hands out so that you have about 36 inches across in front of you, top and bottom, what I want you to now notice is, hang on here, because if you get here, now go into a tunnel. And suddenly, yep, that's exactly what I said. What you're realizing is you have tunnel vision. And tunnel vision means I have this much visual awareness and I'm missing a lot of data. So if someone comes up and leans in like this, it can be really startling because you thought you got that. Or if somebody gets right here and leans in, they look a whole lot bigger and closer than they actually are. And when somebody stands directly in front of you like this, it feels like they have you trapped. And truly, all they're trying to do is get your attention and get you to really pay attention because somebody told them that's the best way to do it. It actually turns out that this is a lot less problematic for your brain because your vision has a way past me, and yet you can see my whole face. So if I were to get down here, that'd be even better because I'm not at the top of your field. Yeah. Be good if we knew all this stuff, wouldn't it? And that was early dementia. And the challenge is only about 20% of people who are in early dementia are diagnosed. 80% aren't yet discovered. And so what we see is they startle easily, they get angry, they get frustrated, they won't go. They're making mistakes because remember, it's down low and up high both. And it's simply because they're living with tunnel vision. This is also the kind of vision human beings get when they feel threatened. So if you're feeling a little threatened, believe it or not, you're missing a lot of data too. Because it's not just about dementia. Brains do this when they feel threatened. So now let's talk about what happens by the time we're in the middle of the disease. So take your arms, 36, and bring them so they line up with your shoulders. Somewhere around 18 inches across, 20 inches. Now, here's the good news. My visual field with dementia doesn't typically get smaller than this. But there are other things that start happening that make it a challenge. But now take your arms out like this and go from the tunnel to binoculars. And realize now I can look out or I can look down. So this vision, when I'm working in here, whether I'm looking down at my feet or whether I'm looking down at a tabletop or whether I'm doing something in this range, I'm focused on a task. I don't necessarily know that you exist out there. And when you reach in or come in, whoa. So it would be like I would be here and then I would come down. I would be here and then I would step here. Or I would reach towards you and realize when I do this, if you're looking at my face, my body, you don't even see my hands, but suddenly you feel them. Wow, that's not a good thing. So one of the things that can help, just as before when I worked on that supportive, if I'm here and I show you things right here, I can get you to engage and notice things that we're doing. And guess what? You can reach it too. And then, if I put myself here and do something with my hand to my body, I could actually show you how to use your hand and what it is we're trying to do, but you feel safe. Whereas if I try to do things to you, you don't feel so safe. So when someone is living in the middle of the disease, that's about the time we think we should help, we should do things. But if we don't understand how their vision is changing, boy, could we be doing the wrong thing. And if we're out there and they see us, they may not notice what is ever right in front of them, whether it's wheelchair leg rests or whether it's a dog or whether it's newspapers, and they start toward us and they're going to fall over it. And sometimes it might even be the walker that somebody said they should use. I might also reach for somebody else's food at a tabletop, not realizing mine is right there because I can see theirs when I'm looking out there easier than I can see mine. Or I might react when you reach in to take my plate because I didn't even see you coming. So as the disease moves forward, we got even more things going on, but it's not field now. This is as small as my field goes. But the next thing that actually happens is the wiring between my seeing area, my vision area, and my doing sensory area starts to happen. And I don't always know what you do with objects. So I don't recognize objects for use. So I could look at a hairbrush and a toothbrush, and I may start to brush my teeth with a hairbrush because I found them both in the same place and I don't recognize which one is for which. I might look at toothpaste and think it's hand lotion. So all of a sudden, things that should make sense are not making sense because I can't understand what I see and how to do and use what I see. I misunderstand it. Sometimes I'm fine. And then in the late stages of dementia, something else happens. Each of our eyes is wired together, and when the image hits the retina, it's actually upside down, and the optic nerves pick them up, and it puts it into a complex, our eyes are divided into quadrants, and it puts it in this complex wiring that by the time it's on the back of our brain, we have an integration of the two visual images into a single integrated image that allows us to see in 3D, three-dimensional. So we can tell depth, distance, we can judge things. And by the end of this disease, people can only use one image. And the brain isn't stupid, it's trying its best. So it says, quit paying attention to the other eye, because otherwise I might have double vision. I can't get them to line up. So they may just close their eye, they may just keep their eye open but not use that image, but they lose all depth perception. So what you might notice is I start using my hand with my eye, and you'll notice I'll look and then I'll start to reach. But I may be reaching far past where I should, and when I go to reach, I don't necessarily realize how far that is, and so I'm at very high risk for falls. I'm also at high risk for making mistakes. So I may do something, and when I go to stand up, I keep my cup the way I had it because I have to realize, look, gravity, and I have to keep it upright even though I'm bending forward. That's a visual motor kind of integration. And when you tip me back, you may scare me because I can't adjust my brain and my body with balance and handle that very well. So the challenge I find is that very few people really think about what changing vision does to abilities and to what I notice and what I don't notice and what you notice and what you don't notice. So learning about vision matters. Figure it out.